All right, so now I'm recording. All right, so here's what we're going to do tonight. For the benefit, I mean, you're here. That's good. So at least I have somebody to bounce stuff off of. But basically, what we're going to be doing tonight, I'm not going to go through the rigmarole, the normal rigmarole of discussing the, doing the discussion thing with you. There's a lot I want to look at. We have two things that we're going to be doing this week that I want to give you as much time on as possible. One of them is the assessment, which is the color theme for the logo. And then the other thing is an assignment, which is a poster. And the poster involves working in Adobe InDesign where you're going to lay this poster out. Now, there are elements. Have you gone in and looked at, oh, somebody else is here. Christina's here. Hi, Krista. Krista's here. How are you, Krista? Can you hear me? So anyway, for both the assessment and the assignment, there are files that you guys have to load down. Are you guys aware of that?
Yeah, and I loaded them and messed with it and said, "Oh my gosh, I would never, I would never put this in a public place."
What's that?
But no, I did. I was able to
Get them down?
Everything's in my documents.
So you should have some pictures, right, for the poster. I think it's like 3 or 4 pictures, right?
Yep, there were 3 pictures.
There you go. And then there's a logo, right?
Right, and the logo, and then the there wasn't font per se, but I think on the assignment that I actually...
Yeah, you have some copy that you have to include in there.
Right.
So let me kind of explain very quickly what's going on. First of all, we have our poster. This is the poster that I did. I'm going to go through the process of how I made my poster. And then, of course, that should give you some idea of how you go about preparing this page for Adobe InDesign, because that's what this program is, Adobe InDesign.
Right.
So that's one thing I'm going to do tonight. I'm also going to talk to you about color a little bit tonight. I'm also going to talk to you about the proper preparation of pictures for print. And that goes back into CMYK color and RGB color.
Right, the one that I just watched. Very interesting.
If you, well, I'll get to that, but that's what we're going to do. All right, and then the other thing I have here is I have my poster kayak. There it is. It's brought into Photoshop, and this is an option for you. You don't have to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this. If you guys want to do this, you can. And the reason you would want to do this is because this looks pretty good as a poster, but this looks better where you've taken the poster and you've used the poster in a composition.
Yeah, I went to that site and yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, so you can actually find a picture. Here's a picture. Okay. I'm going to show you how to scale and proportionately distort the picture so that it will go into that background. And then to make it even a little bit nicer, I'm going to show you how to add a little bit of sheen to the face of the poster to even give it a slightly more original look, like it actually is part of that. Okay. Yeah. Now you'll notice that this is one of these pictures that came from one of these sites. See it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I mean, you know, you don't have to worry about those lines being there because I'm here to teach you things. And if you use a picture that comes from a site and it has those lines through it, that's fine. You're here to learn. That's what this is really about.
All right. That's what I figured, but I don't assume anything. That was one of my questions.
No, that's it. So then what the other thing is, and where we're going to begin is, oops, wrong one here. We're going to begin in Adobe Illustrator with the Aqua Excursions logo. So let me just very quickly read the assignment, and that will help you to get a sense of what I'm about to go through with this. Okay. All right. So for the assessment, you will research the mood of color and create 2 color schemes for the Aqua Excursions logo. So what it really comes down to is they're supplying you with this black and white version of the logo. Right. You are going to creatively explore color. I am going to demonstrate color, and you're going to explore color, and you're going to learn a little bit about color, and you're going to come up with two different versions of the Aqua Excursions logo utilizing two color. I'm going to show you how I did it in a minute. You are going to then go in and do it yourself and supply me with that. Let me go a little further. So you download the Black and White Excursions logo, which is right there. You can do that. Explore the cooler color themes and create two different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. Now, you went to Cooler and you took a look at Cooler. What I am going to do tonight, instead of doing this through Cooler, I am going to show you how to do the exact same thing right here in Adobe Illustrator. It's very important that you guys know that there are all kinds of interesting options for you. And in fact, Adobe Illustrator is an extremely powerful program and can do a lot of stuff for you. And I want you guys to realize that this is a very important program. The more you know about it, the better it is for you. So I am going to show you how to do that using Adobe Illustrator. And if you want, you can use Adobe Illustrator to do it. Or you can go in and you can do the same thing basically using Adobe Cooler, or they say Cooler, but what they mean is Adobe Color, okay?
Right, yeah, I kind of got that.
Right. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write a 150 to 200 word rationale. That includes the reasons why you chose the color scheme. So essentially, you're going to design the color scheme for this logo. And then you're going to tell me about your color scheme and why you decided to go the way you went. There must be some criteria for doing it. That's what I'm saying, okay? So that's it. I hope you understand it. Now, convert the colors to CMYK color values. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. There are, in fact, two different color values that we can use. There are CMYK, and there is, well, actually, I'm sorry, there's three. There's CMYK, there's Pantone color, and there is RGB color. So after I get done finishing talking about that, that is where I will begin. All right, so apply one color theme to the black and white logo listed in the assessment area, and this will be the color scheme that you're going to use for your project. So essentially, after you do this, create this colored schemed logo, and it'll be two colors, okay, of your choosing. That's what you're going to export and use in your poster. I'm going to start off by showing you how to do all that stuff, okay? All right, so there's your black and white logo. We'll come back to this in a minute. Up here, I have two other files open. One says Aqua Logo Spot, and one says Aqua Logo Process. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, before I do this, there's one other thing I want to show you. You've been to the swatches panel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you familiar with the swatches panel? Krista, can you hear me okay? Are you there? Does she have her mic? Is her mic?
She says yes on the chat, but...
Is your mic... Can you unmute your mic and say hello? Can you do that? There. Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can. You can turn your volume up a little bit if you want.
Okay. I got a lot of kids in the background. That's why.
Okay, that's fine. You can turn it back off. I just wanted to make sure that everything's cool. At any point, Chris, if you have a question, just unmute your mic and speak up, okay?
Will do.
All right. All right. So anyway, let me get this out of the way. The first thing I want to show you is this is what a standard default swatches panel looks like. Now, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in Adobe Illustrator, and unfortunately, due to the limitations of 4 weeks, there's only certain things that I'm going to be able to cover with you guys. I try to cover as much as I can, and I try to do it in a way that you'll easily learn these things and have them to move on with, so that when you hit other instructors, they can show you other things, and when they talk about these things, you'll kind of remember some of the stuff that I showed you.
Right.
I choose to do things a certain way. I've been a graphic designer since 1971. That doesn't make me perfect, but it does make me experienced. Yeah. And I try to show you things that I think make sense, and I try to explain why I do them. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to remove all of this stuff that you see here, because in fact, it's in a way kind of garbage. It's there for the amateur. It's there for somebody who wants to play with color without getting too involved. But as professional designers, it isn't something that is incredibly valuable to us because ultimately we are going to create our own colors and all these other things are just sort of like in the way. Does that make sense so far?
It does.
All right, so it's very simple to do this, really. Once you get your swatches panel open, and by the way, every panel that you go into, there is a little menu up in the upper right corner that you can click, and it can show you different things, okay? So what I'm going to do in the swatches panel is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go down to where it says select all unused, which means it's going to select all the unused color. So what color is being used? Black. So everything else pretty much should select. So select all unused colors. Now, can you see how it highlighted?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I hit the garbage can because I'm deleting all of them. Do I want to do that? Yes, I do. So what it did essentially, and this one here didn't delete, I'll just throw that away. It's not a problem.
Okay.
I'm left with the 4 following things. I'm left with the color which is called none, which means no color. Then this is called registration. Registration is something that you use for marks and stuff for printing, and that you can leave. It certainly isn't going to hurt anybody. It's not in the way. And then absolute white and absolute black. So that is always the first thing that I do. Okay? Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is, does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm doing with this? And do you have any questions about it at all?
No.
It is just a procedure that I do because I think it's very important. Did you have a question, somebody? I thought I heard a mic come on with somebody in the background. Maybe it was a question.
I heard a click.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, this is just something that I do because I think it's important for a designer to start off with a blank slate, so to speak.
Right.
And I'm going to go in and I'm going to create color. All right?
Okay.
So let me just quickly come over here. So let me introduce you to aqualogospot.ai. Notice that this has 2 colors. It's got a light blue color and then a medium blue color. That's one color scheme. That's a color scheme that I chose. Now I want you to take a look in your swatches panel. You'll see that there are 2 swatches in there. Those are the 2 swatches that I created. What do you notice about those swatches? Can you notice anything at all about them?
Oh, there's a little icon thing on the bottom right.
Right, and that little icon thing has a dot in the middle of it.
Okay.
That is what you see whenever you see a spot color. A spot color, let me explain to you how a spot color works. If you know anything about normal 4-color process printing, 4-color process printing prints with plates. And the plates are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. There are 4 plates, and all the colors are divided up into a certain amount of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and that's how you get all your colors. When you are working with Pantone color or spot color, that's a completely different color language. It's flat, individual color. So that blue there would not be made up of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. It would be a pre-mixed blue, and the printer would use a plate made up for that blue. And then you would have a second plate for that blue.
For that blue.
Exactly. Now here's the problem. If you use Pantone color in CMYK without converting that color to CMYK, the printer is, let's say you use both of those blues. The printer now, instead of just printing 4 plates, CMYK, the printer now is forced to produce 6 plates.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, and that would cost extra money. So you have to be aware of what you're doing, and you have to be aware that when you use these colors, you're using it the right way. Those 2 colors right there would print, if I printed this piece of art, that piece of art would be ready to go into a single 2 or 3 color printing job. And it would be probably black and those 2 blues, and they would print on their own separate special little plates. There would be no cyan, magenta, yellow, and black involved in this. No process color. This is known as spot, or process printing.
Okay, so Spot and Pantone are the same, one and the same.
Yeah, they mean the same thing.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to quickly switch over to Aqualoga Process. Now, here's a piece of art, and it's the exact same piece of art, and it's the exact same colors. But look at your little color swatches, and notice that there is no dot there.
There's no dot.
Okay, now watch when I sit over top of them what happens. It still tells you it's Pantone 6795C, but I use the Pantone color swatch that comes from Pantone in Process, and I'll explain that in a second. And I converted it from Spot to Process because so in other words, if I were going to use this logo, if I were the person designing this logo, I would probably in the end create two different versions of this logo.
Okay.
One of them would be in Process color. One of them would be in Spot color. Because if you're making a regular 3-color business card, I'm using that as an example, a 3-color business card, you would want that to be Spot color. If you're making a 4-color business card, then you would want that logo to go in there in Process color.
Okay.
All right? So that's basically it. Now, let's get back to the black and white. Go back to the black and white. Okay, so how do we proceed from here? We have no color identified right now. If you wanted to, you at this point could go into Cooler and you could examine color and you could try to determine a color scheme for this logo based on what you think would be a good representation of Aqua Excursions in color. That's one way to go. The second way, and again, you know, without someone like me showing you these things, who's going to do it? How are you going to learn this stuff, you know? So for me to just go and say, let's go back and look at Cooler and let's ignore what you can do in Illustrator doesn't really make any sense because you're only learning one thing and there's more than one thing to learn. So that's what we're doing. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to look right here in the lower right corner of the swatches panel. See what it says? It says Swatch Libraries menu.
Okay.
Okay, believe it or not, there's a ton of swatch libraries down here. You might not even be aware of this.
Oh,
but
wow.
all of these are all colors. You could go in here and spend hours horsing around and looking at all the different colors that exist in here. Okay.
I had no idea that even existed.
Well, now you do. And the one that I'm in here to show you more than anything else is the one that says Color Books. Look what just popped up. I'm going to stop right here. And if you take a look, you've got ANAP color, DIC color, Folklatone, and all these others. And then you got all these Pantone colors. And you'll notice Pantone plus CMYK coded, Pantone plus CMYK uncoded. So there are all these are every one of these books here. These are all production-based colors. Color books, and these are your production-based colors. These are the colors as a graphic designer you are probably going to find yourself using more than anything else. So it's very important to know these libraries, and that's why instead of going in and showing you Cooler, I'm using the time available to introduce these to you because it is very important for you to know.
That is really awesome.
There's another thing that you need to know, and that there are different types of stocks. There are coded stocks, and there are uncoded stocks. So when you go to print a project, it's probably a good idea to talk to the printer and find out what kind of paper they have available for you to use. Are you going to be working with coded paper? Are you going to be working with an uncoated stock of paper? You're going to have to find this out because there are literally, as you can see here, coded libraries and uncoded libraries. And it's important that you at least know all this stuff because, again, these are things that you should be aware of and that you should be able to deal with. So what I'm going to do in this particular case is I am going to choose, because the majority, and I shouldn't say entirety, but the majority of the stocks that you will probably be using will be coded stocks.
Okay.
So what I generally use most of the time, I use the Pantone and the CMYK coded stock or the Pantone and CMYK uncoded stock. Now, why? I do that because the Pantone CMYK coated stock offers me the widest array of colors that match both Pantone and CMYK.
Okay.
So that gives me the ability to come up with a color that isn't going to shift on me because the color in Pantone is exactly the same as it looks in CMYK. So
Right.
where all these are other very good ones, the one that I tend to use generally is the Pantone CMYK, or coated or uncoated. It all depends on what kind of paper I'm working on. So I'm going to pretend for our example tonight that we're working with coated stock. So what I'll do is I'll click on the Pantone CMYK coated library book, open it up, and this is what I get. I get another little panel.
Mhm.
And when I open this panel up, this is just loaded with color.
Wow.
Okay? So what I'm going to have you do is either use Cooler or use the Pantone CMYK coated book to choose two colors for your assignment. And you're going to do two different colors, and then you're going to, write why it chose those colors, and from there you're going to produce a piece of art that you're going to use in your poster. Now, before I continue, is there any questions from anybody? Anything you want to ask me, or anything at all? You all good?
Mr. Terry, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to show you how to load some color into the swatches. It's really simple. So you get the idea that this is just a palette that exists in here, right there in color books. And it is under color books. These are all your Pantone and CMYK colors, or they're the Pantone books. The Pantone CMYK color is the one that I highly recommend for general purpose use, and that is this book right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this and I'm going to pick colors. I'm a very boring person, and my job really more than anything else is to just show you how to make this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the blues, because I personally think Aqua Excursions wants to be in the area of blues. That doesn't mean you guys can't do something more creative if you want, but I'm just trying to get this thing going and making it easy for you to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and I'm going to pick two contrasting colors of blues that I think would look very nice together. And I think I've identified two right here. I think tonight I'm going to use this guy right here, Pantone P99-8C. And if I click that, can you see it automatically kicks it right into my swatches panel?
Yep.
I mean, could that be any easier?
That's awesome.
It's simple. It's not hard. Now, I think the other one I want to use is this guy right here. Let's see. Actually, that one. And I'm going to click that. And now I got two colors. And both of them are Pantone. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click Aqua, apply to color. I'm going to click the little symbol and apply to color. And come over here and click that and apply to color. And now I have prepared a two-color logo, just that easy. And this is now in CMYK. Easy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so CMYK. If I double-click on this guy, I want you to see what happens. Did you catch what I did? I picked my color.
Okay.
I double-clicked it. And what comes up is the swatch options dialog box.
Okay.
All right, so what I can do is I can come in here and I can name my color. If I want to leave it as Pantone P103-3C, I can do that. Or if I want, I can call it something like Logo Light Blue. Okay? L-O-G-O, Bill. Don't know how to spell. Okay, and I hit OK. So now when I roll over it, instead of saying, you see what it does? It shows me what I changed it to. Okay, now that's not what's really the most important thing here. I double click it. Okay, notice that it says color type process. See that?
Uh-huh.
All right. So if I want, I can come down here. Also notice that its color mode is set to RGB, right? You can go to RGB grayscale, HSB, CMYK, lab and WebSafe RGB. So what I want to do is I want to make a couple of changes in here. So this is process color. Now, I want process color, but I also want to show you how to turn this thing into spot color. So if I come over here to process color, if I click on this, I can change it from process color to spot color. And if I hit OK, let's go and change it to CMYK as well, and let's see what happens. There. So now that is a CMYK version of that color. It's actually based on CMYK color, but notice now it's a spot color.
Yeah.
That's all there is to this. So really, if I want to go back in now, if I've decided, well, you know, you're not working in CMYK color, you're not working in spot color, you're working in CMYK color, which we are because we're making a poster, then I need to change this back. So really what I'm going to do is just come in here, double click on it, and I'm going to leave CMYK alone because that's correct. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change it to process color. And then I hit OK. Now, when you see I do that, the color doesn't change because remember what I told you. I chose Pantone plus CMYK color. And again, the reason I did that was because those colors right there are guaranteed to be virtually the same in CMYK, process, or spot color. That's why they're so valuable, because I really know that I'm safe with those colors. The only thing that you need to know is how you're going to use this. If this were going to be used in a spot environment, you just simply come over to the color, double click it, change it from process to spot, and hit OK. And now that is a spot color. If you want it to go back to being a process color, you just click on it again, double click on it again, change it to process, hit OK. And your little icon in the corner, you have to be aware of what those icons mean, because those icons are important. They're telling you something. They're telling you what state the color's in. Right now, the state that this color is in process, because there's no spot in there.
Okay.
Okay, so you think you guys got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is what you're going to do. You're going to go in there and you're going to find 4 colors out of all these colors. There's a lot of colors here. So you're going to find 4 different colors. Now, I would recommend that you don't go any more than two colors with your logo. Okay? You have to use blues? No, you can use whatever colors you want. I mean, you have fun with this. Let me tell you another thing about being a graphic designer. If you're not having fun, people will know it. If you're having fun as a graphic designer, people will know it. Your work will show it. It's very important for you to find this fun and enjoyable. So that's something that you might want to consider. So really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for you to come up with 2 variations on this logo. All right? And you could do it by creating 2 artboards. Do you guys all know how to create artboards?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you could create a second artboard, and you could create a second version, and you could export it to me as a PDF. Now, the other thing that you should know is that, all right, let's do this. So let's pretend now, I'm going to put my swatches away. All right. And I'm going to close that out. So you know that if you want to get back to that library, it's right here, Swatch Library, under Color Books, Pantone CMYK coded or uncoded. And I would say for our purpose, if you're going to use this method, then use the Pantone plus CMYK coded. Okay? All right, so now the next thing that I generally do with a logo like this is, you see all this extra space out here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's absolutely, completely unnecessary. Most of the time when I create any kind of artwork in Adobe Illustrator, and by the way, just so that you know, there are certain types of art that you just need to create in Adobe Illustrator. You absolutely have to do it. I mean, as a professional graphic designer, to create a logo in Adobe Photoshop is not the way to go. And it's the same thing with InDesign. If you're going to create a professional quality logo, you don't create it in Adobe InDesign, in spite of what someone else may tell you. Really, Adobe Illustrator is a place, if you're building a logo, you want to build a logo in this program, because this is a piece of vector art, and you get the best opportunity to create great art of that nature in this program. That's why this is an important program for you to know. And I'll be totally honest with you, it isn't that difficult to learn to get. You will get it. The more you explore with it, and the more you practice with it, and the more you look at it and have people show you and you pay attention to what they show you, the more it will begin to make sense to you, and then you'll own it, and you'll be able to really handle it and do whatever you want to do with it. All right? And there's a lot you can do with it. So the next thing that I would do with this is I would get rid of the extra space around this. Why? Because I tend to like things to be tidy and neat. And if you take a look at my Aqua Logo spot, can you see how I've got this thing clipped right in close?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't need that extra space. I don't need it. It's not necessary. So I go to the artboards. Whoops, wrong one. I go to the artboards, and I, again, go to the drop-down menu, and I come over to Artboard Options, and the Artboard options come up, and at the same time it comes up, can you see what happens? The Artboard becomes activated. This is what the Artboard looks like when it's activated, okay? I'm now working with the white area, which is the Artboard. The artwork is being ignored. It's the background Artboard that I'm fooling with. And if you look at presets, you got a preset up here that I generally use. It's usually right here. Look, Fit to Artwork Bounds. Now what that means is it's going to take the artboard and it's going to automatically clip the artboard as close to the artwork as it can possibly be without impinging on it, without actually cutting into it. If I click it, there you go. And all I have to do now is hit, well, how do I close this thing? I can't get at it. Oh, here we go. Okay. There, I accept it, and now I have my artboard cropped tight to the art. That is the best way to go. Any questions about how I did that?
No, that's awesome.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you understand why I'm doing this? I'm doing this because I'm trying in every way that I can to look professional and to do things in a way that works best for the particular piece.
Mm-hmm.
And having a nice tight little, shape around this logo is all you need. All right, so now the last thing, there's one more thing for you to understand. There are a couple of different ways. We're now going to, this logo is ready to go. It's ready to be exported out and saved so that we can use it in Adobe InDesign in any way that we want, or for that matter, other applications. One way we can do this is to save it for Adobe Illustrator. Now, this is a new untitled document. So I'm going to go File, and I'm going to go Save As. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Aqua Logo, AQUA-LOGO, Aqua Logo. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as aqualogo.ai. That's just saving the file, okay? And I'm going to leave all this alone and hit OK. So I've saved this as an Adobe Illustrator file. And by the way, I'm going to close these out because I don't need these anymore. All right, so I have my Aqua Logo AI, and it is at 400%, which means that this is a small logo, which is all I want at this point. If I need this thing to be made bigger, I would have to make it bigger. But right now, this is set to 400%, so if I go to 100%, View Menu, and go to 100%, where are we at here? It doesn't show me that way. Actual size, there we go. There you go, actual size. So you can see it's a rather small logo. Okay, but that's okay. If you need it bigger, you can make it bigger. You just make it bigger. Make your artboard bigger, and then make your piece bigger, and then readjust the artboard to the piece. I don't know exactly what size this is right now. I think it's probably 1.5 inches or something. I don't matter. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so that I've saved this as an Adobe Illustrator file. Okay, now the first thing that I want to do is I want to come up here, and I want to go to Export. And let's see, do I want to do that? Actually, yeah, I think I do. Export, and let's go to Export As, or you know what? I like Save for Web. No, I think Export As. This is for print. All right, so if I go to Export As, I'm in my Week 2 Assessment Logo folder. And if you drop this down, I got a bunch of different choices in here. Now, this is for print. I'm actually preparing this for print. So what I'm going to do is for print, well, actually, now that I look at this, TIFF, I can save it as a TIFF, but I don't really want this as a TIFF. This is not the proper place to go. Let me hit cancel for a second. let me go file, save as. Let's save a copy. So go see, yeah, file, save a copy. Aqua logo, I'm going to remove the word copy from it. And I'm going to drop this down. Okay, here we go. What I'm looking for, I have 3 different choices I can use for my poster. The first choice is an Adobe Illustrator file. Since this is an Adobe program, and since InDesign is an Adobe program, it will allow me to put an Adobe Illustrator file directly into the program. But I wouldn't do that because the printer will then have to convert it from Adobe Illustrator. So I would not do that. So what I would do, I have 2 choices. I can either save this as an Adobe PDF, which is a portable document format, or an Adobe Illustrator EPS, encapsulated PostScripts. It's PostScript file. The Adobe PDF file is a newer file format. What it is basically, it's a kind of a file that embeds everything into it, making it possible, like if you're working with type. Now the type that I'm using in my logo has already been turned into outlines. Do you guys know the difference between regular type and outline type? Has anyone ever shown you that yet?
Not me.
No. Well, I'll do that in a minute. Just don't let me get out of here without doing it. There are 2 different ways types exist. One is as graphic shapes. That's when it has been turned into outline, or active or live type. Live type is what you get when you first set the type. It is live type, which means you can go in and you can use the Adobe Illustrator editing aspect of the program to edit the text. You can make it, you can change the lettering, you can change the size, you can change the font, you can do all those things. Once you turn it into outlines, what you've done is you've made it into graphic shapes. And then the only thing that you could do is you could edit it with graphic shape things. You can't really rework the type anymore, okay? So it's important to know that. Illustrator EPS is old technology. Adobe PDF is new technology. Both of these would be acceptable for your logo to go to your printer. Just for the heck of doing it, I'm going to do it both ways. So I'm going to save it as an Adobe PDF. It's going to go into week 2 assessment logo, and I'm going to hit save. I get my PDF save dialog box. Now, I'm not going to get into a great deal of detail with this just yet, because eventually you're going to have other classes where you're going to have more interaction with this. But I will say that up here you have high quality print, and you've got these PDF formats, press quality, smallest file, and then you can make something custom yourself, and there's an example of something I made custom myself. The smallest file, if you want to know what these mean a little bit, the smallest file is like, say you're going to create a PDF that you're going to put online, and maybe that will be displayed online in an application online that can open a PDF and display it for you. There are those applications now. Smallest file would be what you would use for that if you were going to go with the web. High quality print. High quality print is if you've ever gone to a printing company like, I don't know whether you even have them in your area, like Staples or what's the other one? Kinko's, yeah. They have those nice color copiers. If you are going to have your piece printed from those color copiers, high quality print is the proper level that you would set your PDF to. Okay, that's really all you need to do. Press quality, without using the PDFs, which would be something that you would get from your printer, press quality would be the highest level that this can set. And that is basically for production on a 4-color process printing environment, where we're talking about cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, where they take it apart. The printer takes it apart. That's essentially what it is. For our purpose, though, in this, we're just going to leave it at Illustrator default. Illustrator default essentially means, if we leave it at that setting, it would open up an Illustrator almost as though it were an AI file. So you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between it and an AI file, okay? So I'm going to leave it set to that, and I'm going to save that PDF. And it now is saved as a PDF. That PDF can go into my program, Adobe InDesign, and I can use that as my piece for my logo. You guys got any questions about any of that?
Not now.
No? Clear enough?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the other one, file save as copy. I'm going to remove the word copy again. This time, I'm going to save it as an EPS, encapsulated postscript. Same place, week 2 assessment logo. I hit save. And I get my Illustrator EPS. I can come in here. Now, just so that you understand, there's a bunch of these Illustrator EPSs in here. Do you see it? 65432, CS 10983, and Illustrator 3 EPS. See all that stuff?
Yes.
All right. Why is that there? It's there because, as hard to believe as it might be, you could possibly be sending this file to somebody who doesn't have Illustrator CC. You could be sending it to somebody who has Illustrator CS6, for instance, or 5, for instance. And if you sent them a CC file, they will be incapable of opening the file. So if you know that somebody is going to be working on an older application, you would want to save it back to one of those older versions. Now, how would you know that? One of two ways. Either the person that you're sending it to will say, oh, hey, Krista or Lori or Terry, by the way, I'm working on CS5. Oh, you are? Yes, I am. Okay, well, I'll make sure that I set things to CS5 for you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Or what's going to happen is you're going to send them a CC file because they haven't told you, and then you're going to get a phone call from them saying, I can't open up your CC. And the first thing you say is, really? Well, what version of the application are you working in? And they'll say CS5. And you'll say, well, the reason it's not opening is because mine's a CC and it will not open in your CS5. And then you'll know and you can fix it. So you'll learn all this stuff. You'll understand all this stuff with time. Well, you know, I'm not saying that you'll solve every question, but as you go along, more and more of these things you'll know about and you know how to deal with them. And that's what becoming a designer is really all about, is knowing when things are going wrong, what could be the potential cause of the problem. Okay? So again, for our and by the way, TIFF, there's previewing it. TIFF none, black and white. Obviously, we don't want this to be shown in black and white, and obviously we don't want a none for the format. So we're going to leave this set to 8-bit color. Leave it alone. Okay. Now, the only other thing down here that you really have to worry about, these things here include CMYK PostScript files to RGB files. I would keep that clicked because we are going to be using this in CMYK, so we would want to have those files included. And include document thumbnails. We don't necessarily need that, but it doesn't hurt anything, so I just leave it alone. The one that's very important for us, not in the case of this logo, because this logo, as I tried to tell you before, this logo is outlined. And the reason it was outlined is because it's a logo. The idea is that with the logo, we basically have prepared the logo, and the logo is ready to go. It's not going to change. So we no longer need it to be live type. So to keep it from being changed by anybody, we turned it into outline form, and now they can't go back in and tweak around with the font size. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right, so that relates to what it says here with embed fonts. If you are working with any piece of art that has live fonts in it, by keeping the embed fonts, it will embed the aspects of the fonts that are being used in your piece. So it's only applicable or only necessary when you have live fonts in your piece of art. The reason it's selected by default is because most people just basically leave it on. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just really trying to explain a little bit about what these things mean. So now that I have this set to Illustrator CC EPS 8-bit color, and these I've left alone, I'm simply going to hit OK, and it creates my EPS. Now, if I go into my DES 104 Week 2, and I open up my Week 2 assessment logo, look at that right there. That's my PDF logo, and that is my EPS logo, Encapsulated PostScript and Adobe Acrobat. Those are the two files that I created. And if I click either one of these two, they're going to open up in a program and look exactly like the logo that I created them from. Those are the elements that I am going to be using in my poster kayak piece. So what have we learned? We learned that basically there are two different color modes. There is a Pantone color. There's process color, Pantone or spot, process color, as opposed to process color. We've learned that. We've learned how to convert them back and forth. And we understand that when we're working in print, there are a couple of different export forms that we can choose from. One of them is the Adobe or the Acrobat, the PDF, or the encapsulated PostScript. Okay? Guys, got any questions or anything you want to ask me or anything you want me to clarify?
Not so far.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Okay, so that's it. And again, as I say, this all relates to the production aspect of this course. This is what we're working with, what you need to know. So I'm going to get out of here because we've basically done what we need to do with Illustrator for tonight. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to open this up. We're in Design now. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to create a poster. The poster, let me go to the assignment. The assignment says that the poster is 11 by 17, and you're supposed to use Adobe InDesign only. So don't make the poster in Photoshop. Don't make the poster in Illustrator. Make it in Adobe InDesign. I am going to show you how to do it. I'm going to go through the steps to do it, and I'm going to show you some more things besides that. I have Adobe Photoshop open, and I have my links panel open. My links show all the different pictures that I used in my poster. And I'm going to talk to you about these pictures and what kind of condition that they're in and what kind of condition they need to be in properly in order to make this thing correct for print. Okay? So here's the first thing I want to do. How familiar are you guys with Adobe InDesign?
I've used it.
Have you used it?
Yes.
Comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me do this then. Let me just go in. Let me go from the beginning. Let's come in and let's go File, New Document, create a new document so that you can see how I do this. Now, I happen to know because I've been told right here that I'm creating 11 by 17 inch document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one page. Okay, because this is just going to be a poster, right? Oh, and by the way, the intent, print, web, or mobile. Well, this is going to be printed, so I'm going to leave it set to print. That's what it was set on originally when I come in here, and I'm going to leave it set to that. If I was going to make something that was going to be used for the web, I would change it to web, but I'm not. I'm going to stay with print. Now, there's a button here that sometimes is checked. It says facing pages. If you're working on a piece that requires facing pages, you would check this. Like if you're making a booklet and you want the pages to face one another, you check that. But I'm only making one page, a poster, so I'm going to set the number of pages to 1. Good so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Drop this down, and I'm going to find my let's see what I want here. My tabloid, is it tabloid? I think tabloid is what it is. 1117, yes. 1117 is tabloid. Now you have two orientations. You can have vertical, you can have horizontal. Mine, I chose vertical. Do you have to make it vertical? No. You can make it vertical. It doesn't tell you that, I don't believe it does, tells you that it has to be vertical. So you can decide however you want to go with this. Make it horizontal, vertical, whatever you want, okay? You could also set here, you don't have to worry about the widths because once you set tabloid, it automatically puts in a width and a height, and then depending upon the orientation, it switches them, see? See, it automatically switches them for you, and it switches them correctly. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Just have to worry about that you're going to be making a tablet a tabloid, and then you have to decide which orientation you want. I'm going to stay with the vertical. How many columns you want? I went with 1 column, but you can go with 2 columns, you can go with 3 columns, you can go with 4 columns. This is a poster, and there's not a whole lot of copy on it. There's only one little block of copy, and then there's a little information line at the bottom, a logo, a title, and three pictures with a background. It's a very simple project, so I try to keep my shape as simple as possible. In this case, I'm going to go with a 1 column. Now, margin, I have 1.125 inches. That is 1/8 of an inch. You know what a margin is? Are you familiar with the term margin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so a margin is an area between the edge of the page and the elements on the page that are not going to bleed off the page. This element where it says Sunset Paddle Adventure, that does not bleed off the page. You see that picture and that background element and that sky element? They all bleed off the page. Now watch, I have to finish this, but I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so I've set mine to 1/8 of an inch. You could also set it to 1/4 of an inch. That would be 0.25. Now, also notice that this is linked. So the moment you click into the next one, they all change. Now, this is going to give me 1/4 of an inch margin on all 4 sides. The last thing that you have to worry about is the bleed. The bleed represents anything that's going to cut off the page. The background picture of the water, that sky picture, the edge of that picture, and the edge of that picture all bleed off of at least one side. So you would need to set a bleed. If you take a look at your instructions, it tells you that the bleed you're going to be using is 0.125. So that means 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go 0.125. And then, of course, since it's linked, I click on any of the others, and it's now populated with 125. That leaves you with a slug. It doesn't tell you to use a slug on this, but what a slug is, it's a certain amount of space around the outside of your piece for printer information. What I generally do is I generally put a 1/2 inch 0.5 slug on the outside of mine. Okay, that gives me some additional room for any kind of printing instructions that I'm going to send to my printer. You guys got any questions about any part of this?
Not now.
All right, I hit OK. My page comes up, and here's what you see. See that little blue line right there? That represents your slug area. See that little red line right there? That's your bleed area. And that little purple line and that little magenta line right there, you know what that's called? Anybody?
The margin.
There you go. So what you're doing is you're making sure that none of your elements that are going to bleed go any closer to the edge. Right there, you can't see it, but there's actually a black line where that white page meets that gray background. There's actually a black line there. That's your trim area. That actually is indicative of where the piece cuts out of the larger piece of paper. So all these little lines that you're drawing help you to define where you're going to place things. All right? And that's it. That's all there is to this. I've already prepared my page here, so I'm going to get out of there, and I'm going to go back to my page panel, and you'll see that I have page 1. There's my page 1, and I have page 2. Now, page 2 and page 1 are the exact same size. Page 1 is my poster. Page 2 is what I'm going to use to recreate the poster. So I showed you how. So I can show you how I went about doing this. Okay. But the other thing I want to show you is I want to go to the View menu, and I want to come down to Screen Mode, and notice that I have the Screen Mode set to Preview. Okay. I'm going to set this to Normal. Now, when I bring it back to Normal, I want you to see something. I have this set to a 4 column. I got this set to a 4 column. See it?
Yes.
See those little blue lines there? I set it to a 4 column. And if I wanted to, I can go to the Layout menu, I can go to Margins and Columns, and I can change the number of columns from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 and hit OK. And now I've created a 1 column piece of art. So you can go in and you can make changes to your artboard as well. There's an awful lot of things that you could do. All right. So really what this is all about now is this is about putting pieces of a puzzle together. Since this is a poster, you have some elements. Oh, and by the way, if you read my announcements, you'll see that picture in the background of that water. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I left you a link where you could go in and find water. If I didn't, just look for large pictures, large photos of water, and you'll find a ton of pictures. If you want, I'm not saying you have to make yours look exactly like mine, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I came about, because that picture is not provided. That water picture was not provided. That's something that I went out and got myself, okay? And you can find it on the internet. You can find all these pictures on the internet. You might also try looking in the Adobe, you can look for through the Adobe Art photo files. All right? Now, any questions?
No.
All right. Let me go back for a real quick second. Let me go back to my links panel, because there's something I want to talk to you about before I actually build this. Wrong one. Here we go. Links right there. Okay. So links panel. So I want you to take a look at something. I have link information down here, and I have my links panel up here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different resources are being used in here. Okay. One is called Surface JPEG. And if I click on it, you'll see that, ooh, look at the color space is RGB. That's a problem. Why is it a problem? Because this is a 4-color process print job, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be making something in 4-color process printing, should we be using RGB for color?
No.
No. So that means that one of two things should have happened. The first thing that should have happened is before I went through the process of preparing this page, and I deliberately did it this way so that you could see what happens and I could explain it to you. What I should have done is I should have taken every single one of these pictures and opened every single one of them up in Adobe Photoshop. And let me just quickly go to Photoshop. And let's see here. Poster Kayak Sunset. No, I don't want that anymore. Well, actually, let me do this. Let me go File, Open. And let me go to Sunset. Yeah, here we go. All right, let me find my water shot. There's my water. Hit Open. There you go. See what it says here? Can you read that?
RGB?
That's right. So it's telling me that this picture is in RGB. And that's no good. So what I'm saying is if you are doing the right thing, if you are really into doing this and doing it the right way, you would automatically go in and check all your photos to make sure that they were all in CMYK. This is in RGB. It isn't that big of a deal to correct this. All you have to do is open the image in Photoshop, go to the image menu, and right there it says Mode, and you see where it says RGB and it's check mark next to it? You're just going to click on CMYK, and it'll say you are about to convert, and you hit OK to convert it. And now if you take a look up there, what is it saying now?
The CMYK.
That's all there is to it. And I click on this and shut it, save changes, yes. Okay? Now, I showed you that because I wanted you to see what happens in InDesign. You see that little device that clicks there? Or that comes up there, that little icon?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there before, was it?
Yeah.
No. And the reason it's there now is because, look, if you sit here, well, let me go off it so I can come back. Modify, double-click to update. So in other words, it's telling you that, ooh, there's something changed here and you need to update it. All right? So watch right here, RGB. When I double-click this, it updates it to CMYK. So my point is that you really should make all these changes before you get into Adobe InDesign. However, because I wanted to show you how to do this, I didn't change. I changed one. If I click on that one, see it's in CMYK. But if I go to Kayak Sunset JPEG, that's in RGB. Kayak Sunset JPEG there is also in RGB, and Kayak Sunset 1 is also in RGB. So I really didn't do any of this because I wanted to show you what would happen, and I wanted to show you how to deal with it. Because all this stuff is very important for you to understand. You can't just arbitrarily put pictures into a layout like this and assume that you've done everything right. You have to know what you're putting in is correct for what you're doing, especially when it comes to print. So watch what I can do now. I've got this done. I'm looking at the first one that's selected, Kayak Sunset 1, and I see it's RGB. All I have to do is come over here to my drop-down menu, and like I told you, every one of these panels have a drop-down menu. And all I do is I click on this guy, and I go to Edit With, and I'm going to choose Adobe Photoshop. And I click, and it's going to open it up in Adobe Photoshop. And all I have to do is go to the Image menu. I mean, this is so simple, really. It's just knowing you have to do it. And go to Mode, and go to CMYK Color, and hit OK to make the conversion. Check to see it's made. Close it. You want to save changes? Yes. And now when I go back to my poster, okay, you'll see now that this is no longer RGB, it's CMYK. Now I'll do it again with this one, RGB. I come here, click, and I edit with Adobe Photoshop. It opens. I come up to the Image menu, go to Mode, and I go to CMYK Color. I accept the change and close it. Yes. And now that one is done. And I think I got, let's see here, one more here. Yes, one more. Click. Edit with. Photoshop. Opens. Image. Mode. CMYK. Click OK. And close it. And yes. Okay. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because we're in a design and production class. They submitted these artwork. If you go and you take a look at these pictures, you're going to find that your pictures are all in RGB. They're not in CMYK. So what I'm telling you is, from the standpoint of a professional designer, and that's what I'm being here, I'm being a professional designer, and I'm telling you that in order to do this in a professional way, these images must be in CMYK. So you have them in RGB. You have a choice. Before you make your poster, you can go in and you can convert them in Photoshop just the way I showed you how to do it, or you could put your composition together, and then you could go ahead and you could produce your piece in, or you could make your modifications of your pictures in the links panel. So do you guys understand that? Is it clear enough what I went through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the reason I'm concerned is because I know that you actually need to do this. You should really do this. And I want to make sure that you're not going to have any trouble going out and doing it. And there are two ways to go. You can either just literally say to yourself, and you really, to be honest with you, as a graphic designer, whenever you create any kind of a piece like this, you're either going to be given photos or you're going to be told to get photos, one way or the other. And you may find that when you get photos, most of them will come to you in RGB. Now, if you're working on the web, you don't have to do anything. Your pictures are already in RGB, and that's what you need. But if you're working on print projects, you need to, as a graphic designer, know that print projects calls for pictures to be not in RGB, but in CMYK. And you should immediately be thinking to yourself, oh, I should at least take a look at my picture to find out what color mode it's in, and if it's in RGB, I need to convert it to CMYK. You really need to do that because, again, this is all your responsibility as a graphic designer. You don't send this to the printer undone. The printer can fix it, but the printer is going to want to charge you for it, and then they're going to say, well, you know, Lori or Terry, you know, why didn't you convert the files? Well, I didn't think of it. Well, next time think of it. You see what I'm saying? So to avoid that kind of issue, you just really need to learn to do these things automatically. It really becomes part of your job as a graphic designer to do all these things. And that's why I make a big deal out of pointing it out to you, because really, I need you to realize that even though we're making an artificial poster, a poster for a non-existing company, this all has a basis in the real world. And the fact is that one day you're not going to be making a poster for an artificial company. You're going to be making posters for a real company. And you need to know how the poster is going to be produced in order to make your posters work properly. And you're going to need to know size and how to set your page up. And you're going to need to know what kind of material you're going to be printing on. You're going to have to make sure that your colors are in the right color mode, CMYK or spot, depending upon how the color is going to be used. You need to know all these things. And without somebody like myself going through it and talking to you about this, where are you going to learn this stuff? I mean, let me ask you this. How much of this stuff, would you say that most of this stuff that I covered tonight you guys knew before you came in here?
None of it.
None of it. And does it seem like incredibly difficult for you to understand? I mean, can you grasp this stuff? It's not hard, is it?
No.
No, it's not hard.
No, I mean, my goal is to not make anything hard. I don't want to make anything difficult. But what I do want to do is I want to make sure that when you come in here, you're going to walk out of here with new things that you didn't know. It's very important for you to know things. And who's going to show you these things? Me. I'm the one that's here. That's why I'm here. I'm here to show you the things that you aren't going to know. So now you know these things. As you come across them in the future, you'll hear other instructors talk about them. It won't be strange. You'll have some idea of where they're coming from with this, and you'll at least have some sense of where you go and how you have to handle these situations to make it all work. Okay? Guys, got any questions?
Bill, I have a question.
Well, you go right ahead. That's why I get the mic, my friend.
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a storm. I keep losing internet connection with you.
Okay.
But your links, why aren't they showing CMYK on the JPEGs on the kayak?
Well, I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's no big deal, and I'll tell you why. Because there are two sections to the links panel. There's the link info panel at the bottom, which connects directly to the links panel. And any of these that I click on will show you information. Now, this is an encapsulated PostScript file, so it isn't going to show you the same kind of information. It's just going to tell you the name. It's going to tell you that is an EPS file, which you can get up there, and it's going to give you a status of OK, which means that there's nothing wrong with it. And it's also going to give you a byte size. It'll tell you how much information this comes up with. Now, let me just point out to you something. These printed files can become huge. They can be huge. You could have, like, I've seen brochures that were 600, 700 megabytes in size because of all the pictures and elements that are used in it. So this really just gives you information. Look, it even tells you who did this, me. It gives you a title, and it gives you a creator, tells you where it was created in Adobe Illustrator. So this, if it doesn't show up in here, remember you have link information, and you can click on any of these things, and it will tell you information about whatever you got selected. Now, the information for these pictures are going to be the same, except that it'll be specific to the picture. Like, for instance, Kayak Sunset 1, Kayak Sunset 2, but they're all JPEGs, one page. They're all CMYK, and they should all register as a status OK. If there's a problem with it, you're going to want to try to find out what the problem is, and the program will probably give you some clue as to how to go about doing it. And this will, look now, for instance, look at the size of this picture. That's a 4 megabyte picture. That's a pretty big picture. 4 megs. Have you guys got jump drives?
Yes,
Okay, what are they, 16 gigs?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So that's 4 megabytes. That's a fairly good sized picture. And believe me when I tell you, I've seen them 35 megabytes. I've seen pictures that were 35 megabytes. I've seen pictures that were 70 megabytes. Usually it's because the pictures are gigantic. And actually, when you're working with photos, and this is not really a Photoshop course, and you'll get into Photoshop later, but when you're working with photography, I don't care what you're doing with it, it's always good to have extremely big pictures, because you can always make a picture bigger in Photoshop. It's very difficult to make a picture, I'm sorry, you can always make a picture smaller in Photoshop. It's very difficult to make a picture bigger. As a matter of fact, you really can only make a picture 17% larger safely, and even that's not really a good idea. So really the truth of the matter is, you know, the bigger the picture, the better usually. And it gives you this information here. So it's possible that I might have named this. Let me click and see. If I click on that, let's go to Edit with Photoshop. Yeah, see, I have that named that way. I put it in. Oh, I know why I did it. I know why I did it. I did it because I'm becoming an old senile fool. And I was afraid that I wouldn't remember which one was CMYK. And then after I got done thinking about that, I realized, but wait a minute, it tells you right in the properties. So I put that in there. I wrote it in there for a little memory jolt for myself, but it turned out that I didn't need it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
That's the only reason it's even there, is so that I had a memory. But it's right here in the link info. I didn't even have to do that. All right.
I was just curious why it didn't show up on there. Is there a reason? But you answered that.
I wrote it in there, and it should just say JPEG, and you should be getting that information from your link info. That link info will always work if you know where to find it. And believe me when I tell you, when you're working on this program, you should at some point check your links out and make sure that you have everything where. Now, there's another thing. Since I've done all this, it's not going to happen. I should have probably left 2 of these things as I can probably do that. Let me go back. And I'll explain to you why I'm doing this. Let me go to Relink, and let's see which one that I have selected. Sunsac 2. Okay. All right. I have these in here as CMYK and RGB. So that's Kayak Sunset through 1. That's 2. That's 3. Okay. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit Open. There. Okay. Now, see. Let's see if I got that. Did I get it? Oh, no. I didn't edit. Undo Relink. I think that's not the one I want. Let me see. Wait. Let me see. Let's do that guy right there. Okay. So that is that one. Kayak Sunset 3. Okay. Let me come in here and let's relink it. Now, why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm doing it because I want to show you something. Which one is it? Is that one? Yes, that one right there. And it's this guy. And hit OK. There. Okay. So now that one changed. Now, if I click on it, it's still CMYK. Oh, you know why? Because I changed it. I changed it in the demonstration. What I was trying to do is I was trying to put an RGB back in there, because one of the things I wanted to show you, you're going to have to, if I'm not mistaken, let's see how submission requirements. Yeah, you're going to be submitting this thing as an InDesign file, press quality. Okay. So what I wanted to show you was I wanted to show you that if you get to the point where you're exporting this, you're packaging it, there is a dialog where you can check your image status, and the image status will tell you whether it is the proper image or not. And if it's in RGB color, it will even throw up one of those little triangular, remember the little triangular icon that you saw there?
Right.
It will throw one of them up, and it will say, this is in RGB. Is that what you want? Because it knows that you probably shouldn't be working in RGB for print. Now, strangely enough, and again, I'm not trying to confuse you, but you know, this is 2016 and things have evolved quite a bit. There are some printers that will tell you that they have absolutely no trouble at all if you send them the images in RGB. But you don't want to take a chance on that unless you're having a conversation with the printer. If you actually are talking to your printer and you're asking the printer things like, you know, what kind of bleeds do you want? What color modes do you want for things? Your pictures, you know, what is the resolution you need? He'll tell you all this information if you have the opportunity to talk to them. And I recommend that when you're working on this stuff, you try to get the opportunity to talk to the printer, because that will help you tremendously to know what that printer can do for you. And as a matter of fact, the printer will often, like next week, we're going to be working on a trifold brochure. The printer can even give you templates for a trifold brochure, so you don't actually have to produce the template. You just use this template, put your artwork in it, and because you're using a template that was given to you by the printer, that you'll know that that trifold brochure will work perfectly because the printer created it for you. I don't know whether you knew that, but the printer can do an awful lot for you. These guys, even though they're not necessarily graphic designers, they deal with more graphic design in a day than you do because they've got everybody throwing graphic design at them. And there are many people that are really on top of things and their work is perfect and they don't have to do anything. But there are probably just as many people that are sending them stuff that they have to do work on. So these guys know a tremendous amount, and they want, their number one goal is to finish this project so they can bill it. That's all they care about. They don't really care about the design. They're not involved in that. They just want that thing to be correct and put on the press and run properly and build. So they will try to do just whatever they have to do to move that along if they have any brains at all. Sometimes, of course, though, if you overextend that, you'll find that they want to charge you. Like if you are one of these people that send a lot of mistakes to them, after a while they're going to say, look, you know, you keep sending these mistakes, we're going to start charging you for it because really you're giving us a lot of work. You should be doing all this stuff. That's why it's very important for you guys to learn this. I am not the only production class. You will probably have other production classes. You'll have other instructors teaching you production. But production, especially in print, is very important. It's very specific, and you should know these things. I don't particularly find it that difficult, but it's necessary to learn, okay? Guys, got any questions at all? Or did that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So is there any other questions you guys got at this point? Good? All right. So far we've covered Photoshop, and why we covered Photoshop was so that we know how to go about converting an RGB file into a CMYK file. Why are we converting it to CMYK? Because the print process requires the picture be CMYK. We need to know that. We need to do that. There's a couple of ways we could do it, and you saw how that's done. We also know that we don't have to worry about EPS files because we take care of EPS files in Adobe Illustrator, and that's why is it an EPS file? It's an EPS file because, again, that is the type of file format that you, or a PDF, like for instance, I could easily come in here with this, click on it, and I could go, let's see here, relink. Okay, so I could come in here now. I think I got to go to week 2. Logo. Yeah, and I could click on that logo right there. Now that's my EPS logo. That's my PDF. Okay? And if I click open, it's relinking. And there, you see it? See my logo? Now that particular logo color scheme doesn't look anywhere as good as the original, but the only reason I did that was because I wanted you to see how easy it is to just take a resource like an EPS file and convert it to a PDF, and it'll look exactly the same. Only difference, of course, is the other one had a different color. I'm going to go edit undo because I like that color scheme a lot better for this poster. But do you get the idea? You can do a lot of things if you know what to do. And really what this program is, just so that you know, it's a layout program. This is all about layout. This is where you basically take a bunch of random elements and you put them together to create a cohesive form. In the particular case of this project, we're making a poster. So what I've done is I've put a bunch of images into position here. I brought a logo in, and I created copy. Sunset Adventure, I created, formatted, and picked color. I put a block of copy in here. That was the copy that comes with the assignment, and a little line of copy. I'm about to show you how to do that, okay? Again, I don't know how all you are with Adobe InDesign, so I'll do it so that you can see how we do it. All right, so again, what I'm going to do is go to the Layout menu, Margins and Columns, and I'm going to make this 1. Okay? It's real simple. Now, my bleed. I have a picture. It's a picture of water. The water is going to bleed everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and whenever I use, there are several different rectangle tools. There's the rectangle tool with the big X in the middle, and then there's a rectangle tool that has nothing in the middle. I tend to like to use the rectangle tool with the X in the middle because when I do this, I'm going to click and drag my rectangle. If I drag it all the way over to here, which is my bleed line, okay, and I don't think I quite got my bleeds right, so let me grab that one and drag it over to there, and I'll get my bleed right. There we go. And I don't think that's bleeding quite right either. Let me see. It is. No, it's good. Okay, so I have that thing bleed. Let me go view, zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I think we're all right. Yeah, we look okay. All right, so you see, the reason I use this is because it's got that nice big X in the middle. And then this way, at least I know if I deselect it, see, I know where my box is. And that doesn't look right. I think there's something wrong with my top bleed. Let me go up there. Oh, I'm too high now. Well, it's being jumpy and sticky, so I'm going to leave it there. I think we're good. All right, so anyway, there's my first frame. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to place. Now, what you need to understand about placing, let me go to Place. Let's go to Place, and I'm going to find my water. There's my surface. Hit Open. And now it places my water. The problem is the water has come in a little bit smaller than I need it. So if I click on that, see that little bullseye in the middle there? If I click that, I can hold down the Shift key and the Alt key, and I can increase the size of this picture from the center out until I reach my bleeds, which are right about there. And now I have my background picture placed. You go to this one. See, there's my background picture. There's my background picture. Real simple, right? All right. Now, next thing I did, if you take a look at this, I made this sunset thing happening up at the top here. I thought, you know, this picture is kind of interesting, but, you know, we're talking about Sunset Paddle Adventures. There's no sunset paddle in this picture. It's kind of just like, you know, water. And so I'm thinking, is it really appropriate? So, you know, you might want to consider that when you actually make your design. It's actually sunset. So maybe instead of the water background. But what I chose to do instead was I chose to put a picture up there. And how I did that was I just basically come in here and I do myself another frame. And I probably came down about, oh, maybe, I don't know, not quite a quarter, probably about like that. And then I went File, Place, and I came in and I found my pictures. And the one picture that I really liked, I thought, was this picture right here, because it had that cool sunset kind of thing going on up there. So I clicked on that. I'm going to go with the CMYK. You know what? No, they're all CMYK now. Hit Open. There, and it came in. And once again, with my selection tool, I can come over here and you see the little target button? I can click on the target button and I can hold down the Shift key and the Alt key and I can expand it out until it reaches the edges. And then all I have to do is, with it selected, this is the actual frame of the picture. The frame of the image is right in here. So the frame of the picture, I'm just going to, with the picture selected, I'm just going to start moving the picture down until that cloud thing comes up. And I want it to go right about there. Yeah, right about there is good. Okay, and then I'm going to just grab the frame. I'll select the frame this time, and I don't want these people's heads in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choke off that frame until I just got above the guy's heads, right there. And now if I go to the View menu and come over to Screen Mode, Preview, that is what my overall background image looks like, okay? So again, what am I doing? I'm just literally overlapping some pictures on one another to create a very interesting background composition. This is the kind of thing that you can do. This is the kind of thing that you should do. It's really just a matter of playing around with this a little bit to come up with a solution that visually looks exciting. Are we good with this so far? Do you got any questions about what I'm doing here? Is any of this familiar, by the way? Have you guys done this kind of stuff before with InDesign?
I have, yes, but not at this extent.
Okay. Well, does it seem difficult what I'm showing you to do here? Because I'm trying not to make it difficult.
No.
This seems like doable for you?
Yes.
All right. Now, again, I'm not looking for you to make I'm not saying I want you to make what I made here. But what I'm trying to say is that the basic approach that I'm taking, which is to come up with a series of images or a presentation of these images that makes a beautiful and original or unique looking poster, that's really what I'm looking for, you know? So let's go back to the original again, and let's do a little bit of cheating. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to select my text, okay? And you can see that if you look up here, I use the text font that I have called Lobster 1.4. And you know what? Because I'm turning into an old codger now, and my mind doesn't work as like it once did. I'm just going to make a note here that this is Lobster 1.4. Okay, very good. All right, so both of those lines utilize that font. If you take a look. See, that's Lobster 1.4 regular, and this is 108.108. I'll make it 108. All right, and I'll show you how I do all this. And then this guy here, which is Lobster, and I'm sorry, it's not 108, it's 153. At 153, that big adventure, 153, and of course the Lobster paddle, Sunset paddle, is 54. 54. Okay, all right, so all I do for this, and again, this is probably not the original way that I went about doing this. I think if I'm not mistaken, what I originally did, just to give you an idea and to be honest with you, I think what I originally did was I originally put the picture in, the background picture. I think the next thing I did was I put these 3 pictures in. So I had the background picture, those 3 pictures. And originally the 3 pictures weren't on a cockeyed kind of angle. I think they originally were straight. And they were, you know, just basically this went off the edge here, and this set in the middle, and that went off the edge there. And I'll probably do something very similar to when I'm building this. The very last thing I did was when I was fooling with this, I decided I did not like the fact that all the pictures were sitting straight. So I thought if I had them sort of like on a slightly off angle like that, it would almost look like somebody was looking at snapshots that they took and they just sort of laid them down. And that's kind of why I ended up with those 3 pictures in that kind of an angle. And then I thought to myself, I have a very small block of copy. Where would that go? I kind of really wanted that to go up here originally, but I wanted it to be white because I thought black didn't look good. I tried it originally up here in black, didn't like the way it looked in black and up there. So then I thought, well, I think probably if I had it in white down here, that would be much better. So that's why this ended up there. And then, of course, the last thing I did was the Sunset Paddle Adventure, put the logo on the bottom, and then I had a poster. That's essentially how I did it. Now, am I going to go that way? Not really. Really, all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to build this thing and show you how I did it. I just wanted to explain to you how I did it so that when I do this, you know, you don't have the, you know that I'm being honest about how I did it. I didn't do it exactly the same way I'm doing it now. So what I'm going to do is come in here with this. Oh, and by the way, go to the view menu. I'm going to come back to screen mode. I'll go back to normal again, okay? What I generally like to do with a text frame is I generally like to run the text frame right to the edge, from edge to edge, okay? Start off with it being from edge to edge like that. Now, this is going to be Lobster 1.4, and the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go to the paragraph panel, and instead of having the alignment set to left, I'm going to center align this, okay? Because if you take a look at my pages, you'll see that those 2 lines are center aligned, right?
Right.
Okay. So these are decisions that you make. I mean, I could have easily made them in 2 separate boxes and moved them another way, but I just thought, well, you know, that kind of works. So I'm giving you an idea of how I'm doing and what my thinking was. All right, so now I got this set in here, center aligned, and what does it say again? Man, I see this is what happens when you're old. You can't remember stuff. Let me see if I can get it to where I can see it. It says Sunset Paddle Adventure. All right, so S-U-N-S-E-T space P-A-D-D-L-E, and then enter for a new line. And as a matter of fact, this is set up to Wingdings, and I'll show you what happens with that in a minute. A-D-V-E-N-T-U-R-E. Okay, Sunset Paddle Adventure. Watch this. I'm going to go up to 54. Let's go up 48. That's close enough. See what I have here? I got a bunch of wingdings. Okay, those wingdings. For some reason, mine wants to default to wingdings. I have no idea why it's doing that. It doesn't really make any difference because I've basically set this up and I know I'm going to be using Lobster. So all I'm going to do is go up into my font here and I'm going to start typing in L-O-B S. Oh, there you go, Lobster 1.4. See it? Click on it. And now it's changed to Lobster 1.4. What I want to do is I want to start off by making it white. So what I'm going to do first is come over to the font and I'm going to change it to paper. When you're in Adobe InDesign calls white paper. Why does it do that? There's a reason for that. I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but when you never print white on process color jobs. You never do that. What they do is absence of color makes white. So that means that the paper is usually white. So when you have something that's white, it's actually the paper. Does that make sense to you guys? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
You did? Okay, good. So now you know. That's it. So now this is set to white. And what I need to do now is I need to take the word adventure and I need to make the adventure bigger. So I'm going to bring that all the way up to 72. Okay, now it's not big enough yet. So what I'll do is let's start off by first making the sunset paddle 54, 48, 49, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 54. So that's the size that I want for that up there. See it? All right, now adventure, actually, adventure goes all the way up to 153. So 90, or 72, I'm going to start bringing it up until I get it to 153. All right, that's 158, 157, 6, 5, 4, 3. All right, 153. And I think I need more room because it's the leading isn't proper. Okay, there you go. Now, what's wrong with this essentially is your leading, okay? Your leading. So what you want to do is you want to make this, let's go to 72-point leading. Okay, so you see how it's now jammed on top of one another? So I'm just going to start, and leading is the line space. Leading is the space between the lines of copy. Do you guys know that?
I did, but didn't understand it.
Well, let me explain it to you. If you go way back in history, when they used to set type were blocks of wood that had metal letters on it, okay? And there were two things that they used to do. If you wanted to space letters out, like for instance, if you had the word sunset paddle, what they would do is they would put what are known as slugs in. The sunset paddle, there would be slugs. There are little bits of metal that would sit between the letters. They would be called slugs, and they're made out of lead. And that would space out the space between the words. But then if you wanted the lines to go deeper, you would put what's known as, they didn't call it slugs, they called it leading. And they were lines of leading that spaced the words out. So line height is what it's really called, leading. It's line height or leading, and it's the space between the lines of copy. So you need to have more than one line of copy selected. And then, of course, what you need to do is you need to start increasing the leading until it goes where you want it to go. Now, I'm looking at the word sunset paddle and adventure. And I got a vision in my mind of that up there, so I kind of know where I'm heading with this. So I'm just going to keep increasing the leading on it until I get it to where I want it, and that would be right about there. That's probably pretty good. Okay? So now I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go to the Object menu. I'm going to go to Fitting, and I'm going to fit frame to content. And what I did was I literally almost did the exact same thing that I did in Adobe Illustrator with the pages. I've actually set the frame to the size of my copy. So is all this clear so far to everybody?
Yes.
I'm not losing anybody at all?
No.
Okay, so I like the white, but I think I'm going to end up changing the white like I did up here to yellow. But I like the white above there, but it's not in the right position. Again, I didn't do it this way. I had the pictures laid out. I'm going a different route, but it'll work out ultimately the same thing. I'm just going to now take the copy, and I'm using my up arrow, and I'm just bringing it up to about where I want it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I was right about there. Yeah, actually, that's about where I was. Okay, so if you deselect it now, you see the sunset comes out very good, and even the adventure looks pretty good. And I could leave it that way, but, you know, I got to be honest with you. I really did like the way that that yellow came off, and I got the yellow by just sampling some of the yellow in that picture right there. So I guess the next thing for me to do would be to put the pictures in place, all right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just grab a frame, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag out a frame, something along the lines of that, and I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to look for that nice sunset picture, and it is that guy right there. Let's go with the CMYK, hit Open. There you go. And then I got it in my frame. I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, Fit Content Proportionately. There we go. And I believe it's a little bit on the small side. Yes, it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my selection tool, and I'm going to hold the, well, actually, I could probably just adjust the size of that somewhat. Let me do that. There we go. Bring that down a little bit. Bring that down a little bit. Now I'll hold down the Shift key, and I'll drag it out a little bit bigger like that. And now I'll go Object, Fitting, and Fit Content Proportionately. And I think that's probably pretty close. Now, again, forgive me if I don't make this exactly the same way, okay? It'll be close enough for our purposes. You get the idea, right? I'm only here to try to show you how I basically did this, all right? All right, so I got my first picture in. I'm going to move this picture up. I'm going to move it up right to about there. Now, here's the trick to this. The trick is to have something in mind and try to go about doing this the easiest way that you can. So how would I do this easy? Well, I got my first picture in. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to go, let's see if I can do it here. I can't do it here. Okay, let's go Edit, Copy. Let's duplicate. There it is. Duplicate. Boom. So now I duplicated it, and I'm going to go Edit, Duplicate. Boom. So now I have my 3 pictures in, don't I? Look at that. Real simple, right? Now, that picture, and I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send Backwards. There we go. And let me see. I think that was the one in the back. Yeah, no, this one also goes to the back. So I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send Backwards. Wait a minute, what happened? I didn't get it selected right? That's what it is. Object, Arrange, Send Backward. I have to do it again. Object, Arrange, Send Backward. Boom. So now I have my 3 pictures, right? But they're not the right pictures. So really all I have to do now, we've done this before, is select the picture and put a new image in there. All right, so I'm going to click on this, make sure I got the frame selected, and I'm going to go File, Place. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to place my second picture, which I think was that guy right there. Hold on, let me cancel. Let me see if yeah, I was right. All right, File, Place, Place, and I'm going to bring my picture in, and it is this guy right there. Is that right? Yeah, Open. There he is. And then I take my third picture, and I go File, Place, and I find my third picture, and I put him in. Open. And there he is. Okay? So really, I mean, wouldn't you say that by and large, so far, this is really pretty easy to do?
Yes.
Yeah. And again, what I'm trying to make you understand is that I'm actually doing everything I possibly can to make this easy for you. I don't want you to be, I don't want you to suffer or struggle with this. Now, these things are probably a little bit too big. So, I mean, what I could do is I could try to select all of them, and I could try to reduce the size of all of them. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, that's probably pretty good right there. That's probably much better right there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this picture, and I'm going to bring that picture right over to the edge like that. And then I'm going to take this picture, and I'm going to bring that picture right over to the edge like that. Okay? And then I'm going to, while it's still selected, I'm going to just take this thing, and I'm going to turn it like that. And I'm going to take this guy right here, and I'm just going to turn that guy like that. I mean, these are, see, all these things are so easy. really. And the middle picture, I didn't even know what the middle picture is doing. I had the middle picture straight. So I'll now, again, I'll select these pictures, all three of them, my little graphics, and I'm just going to start walking them up until I get right about there. Okay, now if you want, you could actually run it into them. Now, okay, so how do we deal with this type over here? What I'm going to do is get the eyedropper tool. Let's go to the swatches first of all, and let's open this up a little bit. And let me get my eyedropper tool. Let me see if I can get a nice orange that I like. That's a good orange right there. All right, so what I'm going to do is bring that forward and new color swatch. Okay, and I call it, just leave it the way it is. And notice that it's CMYK process, guys. Notice that? Everybody?
Yes.
All right, this is all important. I'm showing you these things. It's very important for you to understand. We're working in CMYK and we're working with process. Hit OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select the word adventure. And I'm going to apply that. Let me go to my swatches. See if I get my swatch. Apply my color. Deselect it. And there you have it. Now, it looks great, but it also kind of like blends into the background, doesn't it? Okay? But you see I have an effect on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select that line of type. And I'm going to go to the object menu, effects. And you know what? I actually have to do it to the whole thing. I'm going to select the frame that has all the text in it. And that's the text frame, right, guys? Not the pictures, the text. Object, effect, drop shadow. There you go, drop shadow. Now, I don't exactly remember what drop shadow I put into it, so I'm just going to kind of play with this a little bit to give you an idea. There's my original drop shadow right there. The distance is set to 1.375, which is slightly more than like 1/8 of an inch, say, or 125 would be 1/8 of an inch. Let's see what that looks like, 125. Okay, the angle is probably pretty good. I think that's the angle that I had. The size, let's see if I make it a little bit bigger, how that would be. That's nice. I kind of softened it up. So like 1.875. And you know what? I think that's probably pretty good for our purposes, just to give you an idea. Deselect it. Now take a look. Let's go to the view menu. Let's just quickly look at this. Let's go to the view menu and let's go to screen mode preview. There's my poster so far. Can you see how nicely that text pops off of that with that little bit of a drop shadow on it?
Yes.
So that's an effect, and that's something that you would do with this. And we're very close to getting this thing completely done. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to select these three pictures. And the three pictures look okay this way, but you know, they kind of run it. First of all, they kind of run into one another and kind of need something to make them look a little bit better. At least in my opinion, they do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do this in one go. I'm going to select all three of them. I'm going to come up to the stroke and I'm going to put a stroke of paper on them. Let's see if that'll do it. Did I get it on one? I think I did. And I'm going to start bringing up the size. Let's see if I get it. Yeah, here we go. See them coming up? And I'm going to build them up kind of big. A little bit more. That's probably good. So now they almost look like photo prints, right?
Right.
There you go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing with them. I'm going to select the picture. I'm going to go to the object menu. I'm going to go to effects, drop shadow, and I think what I will probably do is make the size a little bit greater. Yeah, that's probably a little bit greater. And let's make the distance 125. Let's see what that looks like. 125. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think I'll go with that just for the heck of it. Hit OK. Deselect it. There you go. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for the other frames. I'm just going to be object, effects, drop shadow, 125, 25, and I forget what I had this at. 113. Anybody remember what I had that one at? Oh, it's okay. I'll put it at 1.1875. There's that one. Okay? And I'll do the same thing with the third one. Object, effects, drop shadow right there. 125, 125, and 1875. There we go. Hit OK. So now, if you take a look, it's beginning to look very much like mine up here, doesn't it? Pretty close, right? Not 100% close, but pretty close. Close enough for our purposes. All right? So what does that leave me with? That leaves me with putting some copy in, putting the logo in. Let's put the logo in first. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, again, come over here. I'm going to make myself a frame. I'm going to go File, Place. And I'm going to go with my, this is my original because I like the color better, my EPS file for the original. Let's see, Poster, Kayak, Sunset. Where is my EPS file? There it is, Aqua, Logo, Original, Bill, Final, EPS. Hit Open. There it is. Okay, and now I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit because it's a little bit small for me. I'm going to click on it, select it, and I am going to make it bigger. Holding down the Shift and the Alt key makes it increase from the center out. That's too big. That's probably good right there. There we go. And then I'm just going to move this thing up. I'll move it up. Let me move it up with the frame. Move it up closer to here. That's probably pretty good right there. Let's go to the View menu. Fit Artboard and Window. Actual size. No. You fit Page and Window. There we go. Okay. So what I'm left with looks pretty close. Looks pretty close. I mean, you know, it'll do. And then I got 2 bits of copy. First bit of copy going to be in a frame over here. I'm going to put a big frame out. I'll adjust it later. There's my frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my week 2 and Kayak Sunset. Where's the copy? Did I copy it? Did I even do that? I might have forgotten to do that. Yep, I did. Wait a minute. Maybe it's on there. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Darn it. I guess what? I didn't copy it down. So what I need to do is I'll need to go to my, let's go into Canvas. And let me get my, enter. I should have made copies of this. I totally forgot to do that. There we go. I meant to copy this, make the copy. So, but this is how you'll do it. You just basically come in here and go to Assignment to Poster. And let me open this up a little bit so I can see it. Where's the copy? Where you are? Here it is, body copy, right there. Okay, that's the call to action. So here's the copy right there. I'm just going to select that, copy it, edit copy, and then I'm going to come over here and Control V, and I just pasted it in there. Now, oddly enough, look what happens. Okay, because it comes back in Wingdings. I have no idea why it's doing that, but it's doing it. So it probably won't do it on yours, but it doesn't make any difference. I know it's the copy. All I need to do is come up here. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I went with Myriad Pro. Yeah, I went with Myriad Pro, and I think I went with 16 points. 16 point. Yeah, I do. And I think I went with about 28 point. Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's about what I used. And instead of using regular, I used semi-bold. Yeah, there we go. And also, I went to the paragraph panel, all right? And I shut off hyphenate. I don't like hyphens. So, see, I'd rather have that kind of look than hyphenation. Now, the last thing that I need to do with this copy is to come over here and change it to paper color. Okay? So there is your poster. There's one more line of copy down here, which is the call to action. And what I'll do is I'm just going to create a shape down here. And I'm going to go back into my assignment. I'm going to copy the call to action. Copy it, okay, and paste it in there, Control V. And once again, I get the crazy Wingdings, but not to worry. I just come in and I change it to Myriad Pro. Oh, I got selected first, sorry. And change it to Myriad Pro. There we go. And I don't know, I think I made this 14. Yeah, I think 14. And I again made this white or paper. And if I go to the paragraph panel, I center aligned it. And now what I can do is I can come in here and I can tweak this thing around until I find the center point, which is right there. See my center point? And then I can just move it up closer. And let's go to the view menu for the kill. Let's take a look at it. The page and window. There is my poster, okay? Now, again, I could go and I could tweak this and I could move it around and make things look a little bit better. You know, what I might do is I might take that center photo and I may move it up a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Give me better spacing around this copy right here. All in all, and I do like the fact that this comes up real close to that. I mean, you might say I can move that down, but I actually almost like to have it overlapping it, but I think that's good. There's my poster. So, you know, again, this is where you want to be heading with this. Are you guys good with this? Is there anything you want to ask me about this? And again, I don't expect you to do this. You do whatever you want to do, but you saw how I made a poster. And I tried to do it as quickly and as easy as I could do it to hopefully help you. What do you think? You guys good?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah? Nothing you want to ask me about?
Just that you're smart. The computer is as smart as you are.
That's exactly right. I mean, the bottom line is you're the one that's the designer. It's just a machine. It's capable of doing what you ask it to do. You're doing all the thinking. It's basically following you. You come up with the concept. You come up with the creative stuff. You then take the technology, and it's really not even the computers as much as the program. The program has the ability to do all these great things. You have to dream them up. That's really what it is. All right, so let's just do that in the last few minutes because we're almost out of time here. All right, so the pre-press requirements, very important. All images converted to CMYK. You can do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All images placed at correct resolution for print, 300 pixels per eye. I don't know whether you can do that because I don't know whether those images will allow for you to do that, so I will forego that. All spot colors converted to CMYK. You must not have, if you look in your color library here, okay, you'll notice that these are all showing process colors. See all those things right there?
Yeah.
That means that all these colors are process colors. If these weren't there, see how they look? If these were here and this was showing a spot, then these colors would be spot. These colors are all Pantone colors. That goes back to what I was talking to you about in Adobe Illustrator. Make sure you export your Illustrator logo using process or CMYK color. You guys got that?
Yes.
Okay. And your bleeds, make sure I'm going to go to the view menu, display performance normal. Make sure, and I got to correct this. I got to bring that picture out, the frame out. The frame's got to come out. Let me see if I can get that frame to come out. There we go. The frame's got to come out there, and it's got to, yeah, it's all right. Make sure that all of your pictures are bleeding properly. So in other words, that sunset bleeds. That background picture bleeds. These pictures bleed off the page, okay? This stuff does not. So make sure that that's all in place. And document packaged for print. Okay, so the final thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the menu, go Save, okay? Then I'm going to go File, Package. Have you ever done this before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Package. You get the package dialog box. Now, there are all these different settings in here that you could explore. It shows you about the fonts, the links, the colors, the prints. But if you look at the summary, actually it'll give you all the information you need right here. Okay? Now, if this says 0 use RGB color because you and I went through the whole process of converting all those pictures to CMYK. Remember doing it, right?
Right.
Okay, if I didn't do that, what would happen is you would see however many pictures I did not convert to spot color showing there. So if I had 4 pictures and 2 of them were converted and 2 of them were not, I'd see 2 spot color, or I'm sorry, not that, images. 0 use RGB space, I'm sorry, 0 use RGB color. If I had left 2 of them RGB, it would say 2, and there would be a triangle here saying that, the colors, do you want them to be RGB? You might want to convert them. So in other words, this is telling me that 4 fonts were used, none are missing, none are embedded, none are incomplete, and none are protected. All of my fonts are good. My images, 12 links were found, none are modified, none are missing, none are in excess, none are embedded, and none use RGB colors. That means that's okay. Colors and inks. Process colors, 4. Check it out. See what it says there? 4 process inks. It's telling you 0 spot colors. Color management is on. All this is good. So if that's the way it looks there and you don't see any triangles over here, you have to investigate what your problem is. If you see a triangle, it's going to be something like RGB color, or you have a spot color. That's when you see a triangle. If you don't see a triangle, then you know you're good. You're going to hit package. It's going to come up. And you can put in any information that you want to put in it. You can just put your name and an address if you want a fictitious address. What I did, just for the heck of it, I'm going to put a file name. I'm going to call this poster. Okay, poster. I just put Bill Sweeney, some company, some address, 999 email at yahoo.com, and some instructions. The reason I did that is because I want you to realize that when you get to this point, you should put some information in here, because if the printer gives this project to work to somebody to work on it, and that person has a problem, instead of going back to the printer, he can just open up this little document, find information on you, and call you and have a conversation about something he wants to verify. So you should put some information in here. And then I'm going to hit continue. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a new folder. And I'm just going to call this Poster Kayak Sunset. Okay? And it's going to be, I'm going to do it right on my desktop. All right? On my desktop. Poster Kayak Sunset. Now, very important. What is this going to do? It's going to copy the fonts. All the fonts will be copied. It's going to copy all the linked graphics. It's going to update graphic links in package. What does that mean? It means essentially it's going to reproduce this document in the folder along with the linked graphics and the fonts. And it's going to relink everything to that document. That's what that means. Is that all clear?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to leave include Adobe PDF print, and I have set to high quality print. What that's going to do is that's going to also create a PDF file, so that if your printer decides he wants to go a simpler way with this, he could use the high quality PDF file. Now, if the printer tells you a different setting, you can set to see there all the different settings are in here. So you can change that setting. But for my purpose, since this is just a demonstration and a lesson, I'm just going to leave high quality print. Better yet, I'm going to make it press quality. We're going to pretend that this is actually be printed. If the printer told me something different, like PDF X1A, X3, X4, I would put that in there. But under our circumstances, I'll just go press quality. And I'm going to hit, let's go to desktop, this PC, and desktop. And let's go package. There we go. Now, restrictions apply to copying fonts. Don't worry about that. The printer is not an idiot. He will use the fonts only for this project and none other. As a matter of fact, the printer probably, if it's a good printer, has every font available already. So he has every right to use the font. Don't worry about that. I hit OK. It's packaging. Creating a PDF. And there it is, Poster Kayak Sunset. Open it up. There is my PDF. There is my InDesign markup document. There is my new InDesign document. There's that little file that has the information on it. These are my links. These are all the links that are used in the project. And here are the fonts. They're the fonts that are being used in the project. This file then would be zipped and sent to your printer right there. That's it. And that is what you're going to do. You're going to zip, you're going to compress this. I'm on a PC, so I would click on it, and I would go to send to compress zip folder. And there's my zip folder right there. And that is what I would send to me. And I don't know about you people, but it's after 9 o'clock, and I think I've done everything I should be doing here. you guys got any final thoughts or any questions or any observations? Anything? Go ahead. It's your time, and then we're done.
No,
Excuse me, Bill.
You all good?
Bill?
Yeah?
This is Lori. I've got a high fever going and not feeling so hot. When is this going to be reposted so I can watch the entire thing?
I'll probably have it online tomorrow. You guys were able to see my first video, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll probably have it up ready to go tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good
No
luck,
problem.
everybody.
So everybody's good?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming. Please keep coming because it's better to talk to somebody than nobody.
Know the feeling.
Yep. So you guys have a nice Thanksgiving, and if you need me, I'll be here tomorrow night and in Blackboard, and I can always be reached by email.
Thanks a
You're
bunch.
good.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep. You all have a good night.
Bye-bye.